the amount of effort it takes to achieve relatively small goals and relatively large goals are pretty similar. And so it's what we choose to pursue that really makes the difference. It's that choice. It's not really working hard. Is that, assuming that everybody's working hard, but what are we working towards?
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am your host, as always, Yona Weiss. Excited to be here today, as I am every day, with incredible guests. Today, we got Spencer Gray. I didn't mean that to rhyme, but it did. So I hope you guys are doing great and listening in well, because this is going to be an awesome episode. I can already feel it. How you doing, Spencer?
Yeah, I'm doing incredibly well. It's a beautiful summer day. I'm sitting here with Kase King. So I don't know how it could get any better.
Well, it can get better. I guarantee you. There's nothing.
I guess there's always room to improve.
There's always room to improve.
Yeah.
But appreciate you coming on the show. And you guys, if you don't know who Spencer Gray is, he's the founder of Gray Capital. It's a real estate investment company. They've transacted in over 1.5 billion in transactions. That's what I'm reading here. That's pretty awesome. And currently operating over $500 million in multifamily. Love to hear how you got started in real estate and what else is going on in your life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, how I got started in real estate really kind of goes back to the beginning of, it was by accident, and it was probably one of the best accidents that have ever happened. And I tell people it's my, one of my best deals and worst deals.
Right.
But I was getting out of high school, and I had a friend whose father was flipping houses, and this is in about 2006. And he wanted to teach his son how to kind of get into real estate and what real estate investing was all about. And he said that, part of real estate investing is finding partners. So you need to go out there and find a partner. And I guess he took me as, we were pretty good friends, but we weren't super close. But I think he saw me as someone who was entrepreneurial, always kind of putting stuff together and, I guess, somewhat of a leader. And so I got roped into it, and I didn't know at the time he was going to go off to summer, go to a summer camp. And I was basically going to be left in charge of running this entire project. And so the project was not a huge success. We didn't lose that much money, but it was not a profitable endeavor. But it planted the seed of, okay, real estate investing is something that I can kind of wrap my head around and something I think that I want to keep doing. And so I didn't really get into multifamily investing, though, until about 2015. I had been flipping. I continued to kind of flip houses on the side, but it wasn't until I had sold another business completely unrelated to real estate in 2014. I was sitting down with my wife, and we're like, what's the next thing? We want to build another business because we wanted to have that full control of our lives and build something. And I said, I love real estate. Let's build a business that's just centered around investing in real estate. And we were very fortunate to partner up with some folks that were multiple steps ahead of where we were in the multifamily investing space.
Right.
And we started leveraging their experience and their track record and partnering on deals and doing co-GPs. And it was kind of just, we threw some jet fuel on their fire, and both of our firms started growing relatively quickly. And so then just with that group, I think we did over 13 syndications as a co-GP, about a couple thousand units, until we got to a point of saying, I think we can do this on our own. And I think we can maybe do a little bit of a different, maybe a better job. I want to build our own team and really build a company, kind of the best, real estate syndication firm that we can. And so really over the past 2.5 years, that's been the focus, lead sponsoring our own projects and, building the team.
That's awesome. That's incredible. A lot of people who've been successful in real estate, I've found, coming from a different business and just, taking, the earnings or whatever, the proceeds from sale of a business, you put it into real estate. It's a great way to get a jump start, especially when you're talking about larger commercial real estate, larger syndications. Was it something that, I know you've raised a lot of money from private investors and things like that over the course of these years. Was that something that came natural to you having for your previous business, or was it something that just kind of was a new thing? Because I know that's one of the challenges that everyone has.
Yeah, it is. I don't think it necessarily came natural. I wasn't doing a lot of, fundraising in the previous business, but I was doing sales. We were actually in the craft beer industry. We were selling hops to kind of brewers across the country and really kind of brokering hops. So, I really kind of started getting my sales chops, really doing that. But, it's different
Sure.
from raising money, but, learning how to communicate with people and just kind of talk through a process and, a product. Well, it's different, it's similar at the same time. But the whole idea of, raising money and, asking people for their hard-earned money, not to just do an immediate exchange of cash for goods and, the transaction's over, it's a whole completely different of saying, you're going to entrust me with a large amount of your hard-earned money, and I'm going to be the steward of that, right, to not only, preserve it, but to grow it. That was something that I certainly wasn't comfortable with at first. And it took a while of, investing our own money, starting with friends and family friends, and slowly growing that network until we really had the confidence. We had started going full cycle on a project saying, we really understand this. We know what we're doing. We know what not to do. And I was at a point of where I'm like I had seen the results of investing in multifamily and syndications and how it was benefiting my family and my friends. And I say, more people need to know about this. More people should be aware of this asset class and that there is an avenue to invest. And I just got excited about, evangelizing and kind of spreading the word of multifamily investing. And so, if you don't believe in something, I can't sell anything I don't passionately believe in. And it was just that passion of, I've seen this work for myself with firsthand experience.
Sure.
And I think you should do it because I truly think that it will benefit you, your family and your future. And so for me, it wasn't, a lot of the fear went away. It's still a great amount of responsibility, but kind of that passion to kind of help investors find the right solution where they want to achieve kind of overpowered, any fear of, managing money.
Absolutely. And you see that coming through. Especially, in bigger pockets and places like that, where you're providing a lot of value, a lot of insight to people who are kind of newer and just sharing your experience. You've having gone through that many transactions and that many deals, you can see, well, we've been in a good cycle. So I shouldn't say you see the good and the bad. There's not necessarily been so much bad. I'm sure it happens.
There hasn't been as much bad. Yeah.
I'm sure it happens. And it does happen to everyone. There's definitely deals that go sour. But now that you've kind of founded your own company, kind of gone off on your own, I know you mentioned you started off with great partners, and that's essential, I think, for everyone who's getting started in the game, to find a partner, find someone, a mentor who is been doing what you want to do, been doing that for a few years at least, and can kind of guide you. You mentioned going off on your own. Are you now doing everything on your own, the operations, or are you still partnering or bringing on other GPs into your deals?
Yeah, for the most part, we're doing everything in-house. Our GP kind of stays internal to the group. We've brought construction management inside last year, and we're in the process of bringing property management in-house into the company as well. We actually just hired a director of property management to build that out. So we'll be fully vertically integrated in the next probably 3 or 4 months. So, but yeah, we're pretty much doing everything in-house. And a lot of that is we wanted to have a direct connection and to control the process. And we've had great third-party property management partners that, that do a great job, but we want to take that kind of to the next level and just, benchmarking some of the best firms out there. Not that all of them are doing that, but it's the type of business we wanted to build.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. There are a lot of great real estate companies that bring everything in-house and are able to scale and really create, a fully integrated company. It's not just, a real estate investment firm and kind of have a lot of moving parts where you actually bring everything in-house. You can create a sense of community within your own company. And that's an amazing thing. It's not necessarily for everyone, right? But that's something you can do.
Exactly. It's not for everyone. And it's not, sometimes people say, well, why wouldn't you manage? Why wouldn't you do all that yourself? But they're kind of separate businesses all on their own. The kind of the finding deals, the actual working on, sourcing opportunities, is kind of, one task that could be its own division or company. The raising money and the financial services and the investor relations, that's a whole other kind of operation. And then the actual operations from property management and asset management and construction, it's really 3 different worlds that have to work together in tandem. But, we still have a relatively small team. We've got 10 employees, we're going to keep growing, but it is, like you said, the community, if it's exciting, because, we're all kind of working towards the same goal, but we all have our own different niches and focuses. But, it is kind of this nice community that is, I'm having a great time. You've seen it grow and, having fun on the team.
Absolutely. And that gives you an opportunity, probably a role that you haven't really been in a while since you had your company beforehand. But is having employees and having people that are working for you, kind of creating that work environment, a place where people can feel like they want to come to work.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge in and of itself. I mean, it's different than, just investing in real estate and finding deals. It's now we're dealing with the company culture and things like that.
Yeah. Building a business, medium to, large size business, it's always been a passion of mine. And, I remember going back, right when we were really kind of trying to expand Great Capital. I'll write my goals down, before I go to bed when I wake up, and and they say what's consistently on that list. And on my list, it wasn't buy 5,000 units. It wasn't make X amount of millions of dollars. What kept reoccurring on my list was build a great business. And so what I'm passionate about is, building a team, building a business that's going to be around here for the next couple of decades or longer, or something that, that my children, if they have any remote interest in real estate, have an opportunity they could, continue if they want to. And so it's building the team and the community and the business. And that only happens with, if we got to do good deals and we have to raise money, and sure, money is a metric that's a part of that equation, but it's not the most important thing. But building the best business is what gets me really excited.
Sure. Yeah. And it really is something else entirely. When you have that goal, that's really what's going to drive you either way. Right. And I think it's really important. Whoever's listening to this, you got to figure out what your goals are in life and in business. And that's what's going to drive you. What's really going to drive you, not just the goals. Really what's behind the goals, right? What's the why? Like what's driving you? So what is that for you, Spencer?
Yeah. That's a good question. At its core, what the why that drives me, is, it's what a lot of people say, but it is that true, financial freedom and the ability and the opportunity to, have the life that I want to live, with my family. And whether that's, spending the time where we want to spend it with the people we want to spend it, and having the freedom to say, I'm not going to work, tomorrow, or I'm taking some time off because I can do that. That to me, having optionality and freedom in life, was the real reason to build a business, and build a sustainable business.
That's awesome. Especially when you have a family, that really makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who's focused on that in life, not surprisingly, I should say, most of the people that I deal with are people like that. You have a family, you have a why, you have something greater pushing you than just how can I make as much money as possible, or how can I do as many deals as possible, which a lot of young people, great, good for them, right? Are being driven by that.
Yeah.
I think when you get a little older, you have a few gray hairs like me, you get to realize there's a lot more to life than, just chasing the next deal or the next payday.
Yeah. I agree, because those things can be so temporary. You get through the deal, you get the payday, and that's great. But what kind of real impact and kind of legacy you're living? And again, coming back to the freedom, being at the point of where you can make an impact in people's lives, whether that's your friends, your family, or it's causes that you support. Of I can not just not only can spend time and volunteer, but I can make real monetary impact on causes that are really going to make a difference in my community. And if I was working a W-2 and just kind of clocking in every day, even if I wanted to, I could, volunteers put as much time in as I wanted to, but I wouldn't be able to make that much, nearly as much impact as I can now.
Right. Are there any causes or anything you want to share, something that you're passionate about that you're putting time in?
Yes. So one, actually, we're both putting time in and we've been supporting financially, is a school in Indianapolis where we're based out of. And it's a high school, and they really serve underprivileged kids. And part of the program is a mandatory work study from their freshman year in high school all the way up through senior year. And, and these kids are, truly, very much, underprivileged, and don't necessarily come from the best backgrounds. And so what we're doing as a company is we're bringing on 2 students for the next several years to come in 1 day a week to work at Great Capital as an intern. And so through that period, and it's really great because a lot of the multifamily firms in Indianapolis have been participating in this.
Wow.
But it not only gives them some, life skills of, some on-the-job training, but the bigger thing is it opens up their mind possibilities of what's out there. Because a lot of these kids, they don't know what real estate investing is. They don't know that's an option. A lot of them, don't really know probably how, finance works, or the 2 areas that we're going to have them working on is marketing and helping out with analysis and like market research. And so one of them, we're going to be teaching how to research, how to do analysis on markets. And the other one is going to be working with our marketing team in creating content. And so that's something we're really excited about. And it's top of mind because we just had a meeting about it today. But yeah, that's one we're really excited about.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. That's awesome. I don't think enough people get exposed to that, especially the financial literacy of it. Just being around people. They don't really teach a lot of that in high school. And sure, you may be teaching them and giving them opportunities to do marketing. And that's great. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And even in the, underwriting deals and looking at, acquisitions, that's all fine and great. But I think where the real opportunity lies for impact is, I don't know if you had this in mind or anything, just like, buy everyone a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad, like that,
exactly.
That will just blow their minds. And they may not be changed by it right away in high school, but it might impact some of those people.
If you can plant that seed, again, just like when it goes back to my opportunity to flip that first, rental house, if I can just plant the seed that there may be another way to look at the world that maybe you haven't been exposed to, but may just open several more doors. And you may look for an opportunity that you didn't think weren't even aware that even existed.
Right.
So yeah, that's the most exciting piece for sure.
That's so awesome. That's amazing. And so now that you're kind of bringing everything in-house, vertically integrating, bringing in its interns, right, building your team, it's very exciting. Where do you see yourself, let's say 5-10 years from now?
Yeah. So, 5 to 10 years, from now. And again, we've had, total unit goals. We, in 5 years, have over $1 billion of assets under management. And again, that's one metric, that we can set a target on. But in 5 years, I truly want to be running and operating, the best, multifamily investment firm, multifamily syndicator and operator that exists. And that's going to be, me, leading the team, but that's only going to be possible just through building the best team and bringing on the best people. And so in 5 years, I want to be working with the absolute best team of real estate professionals that exists. And I know that's crazy and hyperbolic, but why wouldn't we shoot to be anything but the best? Our goal is not going to be to, the runner up,
right?
Right.
Well, we're going to be at least the 7th best, real estate company. And
yeah. And that's hard to, and then, in the best of something, that's really hard to quantify.
Right.
And we do have metrics that we're shooting for, but I want to be the most, well-rounded, the most trusted, and, the group that individuals and whether it's family offices, look to when they're trying to get into the space and make sense of the space and are looking for a partner they can trust.
That's awesome. It's very, like you said, lofty goals a bit, but you're doing the best that you can do. And that's really the main thing.
Yeah.
If you shoot for the stars, right, you'll hit the moon or something like that. You'll get somewhere. And I think bringing in all the experience you have and the vision will get you there. I see a lot of people succeeding in real estate. It's been pretty easy in the past several years in the market, right? But you see those people who scale from, one deal to 30 deals within a couple of years, and you have some people that scale from 1 deal to 5 deals. And not to quantify success by the number of deals you have per se, but what I'm trying to get at is the amount of effort and the amount of growth that one has is really based a lot on what their vision is and what their goals are. And I see those people. I met someone 3 years ago, I recall it was before COVID, and I went out to visit them and walked one of their properties with them. We did some videos, some marketing stuff for them. And I recall them telling me at the time, they had, maybe 200 units under management, at the time. Really new, very, very smart guys. And he said to me, yeah, we're going to have $1 billion. My goal, have $1 billion under management. That's what we want to do. 3 years later, they're at $1.5 billion, right? And it's just incredible to see the growth some people have. And, they also have grown their whole company, everything in-house, property management, and they have 60 employees now. It's and it can be done. But again, who do you have on your team? Who's pushing you and who you allowing you to get to where you need to get?
Yeah. And just, you said, what's your target and what you're aiming for? And, just one example is, when we were kind of early on in capital raising, we were looking at some larger deals, and they were going to require larger capital raises. And it was very intimidating. I'm like, well, guys, if we don't set larger goals, setting the larger goals is going to force us to take certain actions so we can achieve those goals. And if we set a goal of raising $1 million, well, I'm going to probably talk to a different group of people than if I'm going to be raising $10 million or $100 million. And, I threw out this idea that I'm like, I think it's easier to raise $1 million than $100,000. And I think it might even be easier to raise 10 million than $1 million. And like, that's very counterintuitive. But all of a sudden, when we were going to raise $12 million, it forced me to start having conversations with groups that all of a sudden were like, oh yeah, we'll write a $7 million check. But if I was raising the $1 or $2 million, I would have never even approached that group. Right. And I certainly wouldn't have asked for that amount of money. And so it is all relative to what your goals are. And I think Steve Schwarzman from Blackstone in his book, What It Takes, I'm gonna paraphrase. I don't have the exact quote, but the amount of effort it takes to achieve relatively small goals and relatively large goals are pretty similar. And so it's what we choose to pursue that really makes the difference. It's that choice. It's not really working hard. Is that, assuming that everybody's working hard, but what are we working towards?
Right. You're absolutely right. The same amount of effort is in closing a single family sometimes to close a multifamily deal, and the returns can be exponentially greater. So absolutely agree with that. That's awesome.
Especially when it comes to factoring in your time, because we look on our board and we have some smaller deals that take up the vast majority of our time. And we have some very large deals that produce, a big chunk of, the kind of the distributions, the revenue sort of, to the company. And it's like, they took the same amount of effort. And in fact, we've put more effort into these small deals that aren't producing as much. Why wouldn't our effort go into a lot of these larger projects? I mean, just going to get us there that much faster.
Absolutely. Why do you think that is? I mean, what's actually causing that?
The disproportionate amount of work on the smaller deals? That's a good question. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, it probably comes down to that 80-20 rule, at some point. And I don't know if it was just, the product of the circumstances of, one of the projects that's smaller, just, two inherently was a lot more work. And then one of our larger projects has just been so stable and just kind of continuing to improve. But I don't know, there is some strange law of the universe out there that kind of brings that back. And, we're still focusing on the things. And that's why you have to be aware of. And we talked about this in the meeting today of, are we spending so much, what are we spending our time on? Or what are we spending time on things that are actually producing results? Or are we just spending time on them because we think that we have to? And a lot of times you can't make that decision to not spend time on it when you're in the middle of it. It's like, we've got a deal. We can't stop working on the deal. We got to get it done and execute and, get the project to where we need it to be. But it comes back to setting the goals and looking a few steps ahead, because then you're not necessarily going to be in a position of where you're working on things that aren't producing. If you decide, no, I'm going to be disciplined and only focus on the areas of the business that really do produce results, then all of a sudden, your 80 that isn't always as productive, it's much more productive than what it was. And then you've got 20% that's extremely high productive, but you're just continuing to kind of concentrate on what works.
Makes sense. It's kind of hard to grasp it once, when you're involved in it, but, it does make sense.
It's like seeing the forest of the trees when you're in the middle of it. And then you have to look back. I mean, we were just looking at some of our social media. I'm like, we were spending a lot of time, but is any of this working? We spent a lot of time and a decent amount of resources, but if it's not working, we should consider changing it. Or we have to question, should we be doing all of this? Do we have our share of time is better spent elsewhere?
Right. Absolutely. 100%. That's always the question in every business, right? Looking at your output and making sure that it's bring back the return that you want to bring back. Spencer, I want to transition now. Time flies over here, but we're going to go into what we call the final four. First question is, what's the worst job that you ever had?
So I was thinking about this, and the worst job I ever had. So I didn't mention this earlier, but I went to school for music and music production. And I worked in recording studios just out of college. And so I was living in New York City. I was working at a recording studio, which I love working in recording studios and recording music. But I got a job recently after I had moved to New York City at this studio that just their standard, I guess, for quality and how they ran their business and what they did was just so far below the way I thought that a business should be run or a music studio should be run. And it wasn't hard work, but it was a little demoralizing because I had worked at other recording studios that had a very high standard. And it was just so frustrating, working with people that really didn't care that much. And, I couldn't get motivated. And then, of course, everyone else thought that they were, really smart because they'd been working in this recording studio for a long time. And I just was like, I'm just not very impressed. So I didn't stay that long at that studio. It was not a great environment to be in.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that it's really about the environment. I think for a lot of people, the job, it's either something, what I've heard from my guests on this question, it's either the environment, the people, or just very hard, like menial labor.
Yeah.
One of the two, or a combination, which is even worse, if it could be such a thing. The second question is, what is a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Yeah. So this is an interesting one because I'm conflicted about it, but I can't deny that there was a paradigm shift, and that was Be Successful or Be Average by Grant Cardone. And again, I have very, I guess, bipolar opinion of Grant Cardone, but the one thing that he's certainly incredible at is I think he's a great motivator. And that book, there's things I love about it, things that I'm not a fan, but without a doubt, there was a paradigm shift after reading that book of really what I need to do to focus. And I was reading that while I was really building up great capital. And, I had a young family. I still have a young family, but they were even younger at the time. And it made me focus on and get serious about, what those goals are and setting some of those goals. So really more from like a personal development standpoint, it just kind of got me kickstarted of like, I need to start thinking about things in just a little bit different way and taking myself more seriously and my business more seriously and where we're going. Yeah, big shift for me.
100%. Yeah, that's an awesome book. And we'll put that in the show notes. And I agree with you in terms of what Grant, people love him or hate him, but you cannot disagree that the guy's a motivator.
Yeah.
And
he's got energy.
Yeah.
No one doubts that. Yeah.
Third question, is what's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
So I've always wanted to get my pilot's license. And actually at a young age, I wanted to be a naval aviator and fly fighter jets, off aircraft carriers. And then I learned, I think in second grade, that I was colorblind. And then didn't know what that meant until someone told me. They're like, hey, you don't mean to, be a Debbie Downer, but like, I ain't flying off an aircraft carrier if you're colorblind because you can't fly at night, the instrument. So I kind of, put that kind of dream and pursuit kind of in the far back burner. But now I'm at a point where I still love aviation. And so I still won't be able to probably fly at night, but I want to get my pilot's license and start flying aircraft. And part of that comes down to kind of the, I guess, autonomy and freedom and the ability to, I can hop in a plane, whether I rent a plane or you eventually, buy a plane, and I can fly to, a little airstrip. I don't have to make, 3 connections. So I'm in Indianapolis and we don't know what the best connections. Like I can go fly somewhere, wherever we want, take the family.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. That's great. That's an awesome thing to do. I think a lot of people, it's actually been a few people on this show that have actually mentioned that they want to do that.
Cool.
Be a pilot. So there you go. That should be a fun one. Fourth and final question. What does success mean to you?
I kind of touched on this earlier in the show, and, success for me, really, it's not a monetary, figure, at any point. I mean, money is important and it's critical and, it's a resource, but success to me, is to have, the best team and to be so confident in my team in several years and be at a point where I just need to get out of their way and I really need to be less involved because I've just built the best team. And that's kind of just been my guiding principle. I just need to hire people that are way smarter than I am and let them take over things that I think that I'm okay at or I can do, but I want to bring someone in that's way better at it than I am. And we're not too far off on like a lot of like some of what the things that we started doing. I think we still need like leadership and keep moving in the right direction. But to have this vision of, I've got the team, we have an incredible team right now and I love everybody on it, but to be able to just kind of step away and step back and say, I just need to get out of your guys' way because you are just crushing it at what you do. And I'll always be involved because I love doing this. I love being in it, but it's just to have that core, awesome, team that just crushes it each time and happy to come into work and happy to do this. And everyone's passionate about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's meaningful. It really does. When you come to the office and see people enjoying what they're doing and loving that, being successful in their own right in doing that, that's very fulfilling, especially as a CEO, as a leader, seeing that. Amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, Spencer, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you if they want to?
Yeah. So, anyone's free to email me, Spencer@graycapitalllc.com. I'm also on Bigger Pockets. I'm on LinkedIn. We've got a YouTube channel. We do kind of weekly market updates in the multifamily industry. So you can look up the Gray Capital LLC YouTube channel, but, Google Gray Capital will pop up.
Very good. Well, we will put that in the show notes also. And I appreciate you making the time today, Spencer. It's been a lot of fun. Learned a bit and excited to see where your journey takes you.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate being on. This was awesome and looking forward to staying in touch.
Sounds good. And to our listeners, thanks for listening and tuning in all the way to the end. Once again, remember the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.